Okay, so welcome everyone to We Are Triathletes webinar series. I'm really excited because I spoke to Dr. Michele Ufer, who is an ultra marathon runner, and he's also a sports psychologist and expert, and he also wrote the book Mental Toughness for Runners. And I had spoken to him before, and he had such great advice. So I wanted him to come back and talk to all of you guys about how to figure out how to get the chatter out of your brain and be able to be effective in a triathlon or in a run. So without further ado, I am going to put Michele in the spotlight. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Hi,
so
Hillary.
why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your backgrounds?
Yeah, I'm a German sports psychologist, author. I've written a couple of books on endurance or running psychology, and I'm working as a coach, mental trainer with athletes from all walks of life. But in the last couple of years, I was rather focused on endurance because myself, I'm an endurance athlete, and for whatever reason, I got a little bit of publicity in the media. So more and more endurance athletes like runners and triathletes just got in touch with me, and yeah, that's it. And now a couple of weeks ago, one of my books on mental training or mental toughness training got published in the US or in English language, so it's available worldwide, and I'm really very excited to now that you can spread the word a bit on mental toughness and mental training. I'm really excited about this.
So you have to help us out here, because I think that all of us, no matter if we're a runner or a triathlete, we all go through this mental game, negative mental game. Are there any tactics that you would help us with to try to get through to become mentally tough?
Of course, there's tons of things, but there's one thing I cannot offer at all, and probably everyone will be very disappointed now. It's the one and only magic trick, or the wonder pill. And it's quite obvious, I think, because we are all very different. So maybe one strategy or let's say inner image that is very helpful for one athlete may turn another one crazy. We are different personalities, we have different goals, we are living in different contexts, so we have to take this all into account and then develop a very specific own approach.
Talk to us a little bit about some of the ultra marathons that you've done and the methods that you've used for yourself to get you through the race.
I'm working quite a lot with the goal setting, which is very basic strategy. We all set goals all the time. That's really, you might think, oh, bullshit. What does he want to tell me about goal setting? But in my own experience, and in my experience as a coach, I realized that quite often goal setting process is kind of superficial, and there's a lot of potential to improve goal setting. Normally, we all set goals all the time. For example, I want to finish a race, I want to finish a marathon in 4 hours, in 3 hours, 2.5 hours, whatever. I want to finish a triathlon in this and this time. And this is all, these are all one sort of goals. Goals focused on results, so result or performance goals. There's one thing with two sides of a medal, and the goal, the result or performance goal is one side of the medal. The other side, which is very crucial, I think, for mental training processes, it's the process goal. While the result goal focuses on what exactly do I want to achieve, the process goal focuses rather on how do I want to achieve. What do I want to experience during a performance or during a competition or training session? And quite often when I ask athletes, they don't really have answers. So I think this is kind of crucial.
So you're suggesting that we have a goal and then work toward that. So what happens when you're on the race? You know, you're on mile 20 and you feel like you just can't keep going. What do you say to yourself? How do you get through that?
Well, first of all, I developed a kind of attitude that I'm really relaxed, because when I get into a competition, maybe even a very tough one, from the beginning on, I just realized already being at the start line for me is a privilege. I'm really very thankful for being at the start line. I'm able to follow a hobby. I'm able to travel, to spend time doing this. I'm kind of healthy. So this already relax a lot. And, well, if then I will experience hard times, I just say to myself, this is part of the game. This is part of, well, if I want to be happy afterwards, I have to go through this, and yeah, it's part of the show. And well, there are some techniques that are very helpful. For example, working with inner images, or maybe using dissociation techniques, which also science have shown to be very effective to improve endurance performance. Meaning, instead of focusing on the race itself, wandering your mind and think about something different or whatever. Also, self-talk, very effective, has been shown. It's really effective. You can talk to yourself, oh, this is hard, this is difficult. Then it is hard and difficult. But if you learn to switch these kind of negative self-talks into more positive, this will definitively make a difference in the future for you. And this is really evidence or shown by research as well.
So in your book, Mental Toughness Training, how did you come about writing this book? And are there any other techniques and tactics that you can offer us?
Yeah. Well, the book, I wrote the book, well, first of all, to be sincere, I didn't want to write a book at all. It was rather pressure from friends, people, athletes. After my very first race I did, which was in the Atacama Desert in South America, I started writing an article series for leading German running magazine. The article series became quite successful, and I got a lot of feedback. And well, after a couple of years, I had so much material, so much stuff. So, well, people told me, Michele, put this all together and combine it with your coaching experience. This is interesting. People, it will be helpful. There is nothing out there similar. So, yeah, after a couple of years, first of all, I was resilient. I could resist to write a book, but then my friends were strong enough and convinced me to do this. And finally, yeah, I'm really happy about this. And while the publisher first wanted a 180-page book, I had to stop myself at 280. So there's a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things to do.
So you said you mentioned a couple of tactics to use, and Irem has a question. She says, I think what's hard for me is that sometimes to figure out if it's mental or physical struggle when I do long distance running. Any recommendations?
Well, that's already one of the key points. There is a lot of, for example, motivation trainer, speaker out there, coaches, trying to convince us that it's all mental or mind over matter. You have all heard about this. My point of view is that's bullshit, because the mind and the body is two sides of the medal. They're connected. You can't separate them. And I think the best way to improve performance and stay healthy at the same time is, yeah, to develop perfect teamwork between mind and body. Sometimes the mind struggles, yeah, can happen. If you know a bit about when exactly your mind starts struggling, probably you have some experience, in this and that race, this or this moment, I felt I struggle. You can reflect on this, and maybe during your training runs, ask yourself, whenever these moments occur, process goal. What do I want to experience instead? What do I want to feel instead? What might be helpful self-talk for me that could get me through this situation? What might be a helpful image? So when I get an answer to this, I can start practicing during my training session, these kind of mental things. So it's all about developing routines, mental routines.
So this whole notion of it being mental is BS. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Again, I didn't get the question.
I said you had mentioned that it's all mental is BS, right? Can you talk a little bit about that a little bit more?
Yeah, for example, of course, our mind has a huge impact on our body, but also our body has a huge impact on our mind. And if we deny this, we don't really train or compete up to what's really possible. And if people say, well, the mind over matter, the mind is stronger than the body, I think it's stupid, because the mind just can help perform what the body is capable to perform. I always compare this a bit with, I don't know, computer systems. Maybe the body is the computer and the mind is the software. Mm-hmm. You can have a super fast computer, a lot of memory, whatever. But if the software is not programmed in a good way, you won't get access to the calculating power of the computer. Vice versa. If you have a computer, I don't know, no memory, no power, no good chip, you can do whatever with software. You can't make the computer faster. It's not possible. So it's the same with the mind and body. The mind can just help get out of your body what's in it, not more. I don't know. I somewhere in my book I said you can't turn a hot dog into a steak with mental training. But sometimes, or quite often, we don't really know what really is our potential. Sometimes we have a lot of hidden potential. Then again, mental training may play a very major role, but it's not magic.
So Sandy asked, can you tell us about a particular race where you were struggling mentally and what actually you said to yourself to get you back in a positive manner or positive mode?
Just one race? There's always races. Although I'm applied sports psychologist, I even made a doctorate. I'm still human, and there's still moments where I struggle. For example, I competed in a race in the Arctic in winter conditions. It was a 250K race, and I didn't bring the appropriate equipment. We had to run in snowshoes. I brought cheap snowshoes for 20 euro. My wife said, man, you're stupid. Get 300 euro snowshoes because it's crucial. I said, no, whatever. During the race, I was so pissed because I couldn't run, the snowshoes didn't work, and I really started with negative self-talk, emotions, and I was stressed. But then I did a simple thing. A self-talk stop. I just realized, okay, Michele, you're really struggling now. You're talking to yourself. Imagine you have to coach someone else right now. What would you suggest him to do? I said, okay, first of all, stop this negative thinking, which is always connected with negative emotions, which is always connected with poor performance. So I stopped it. And there's a technique, thought stop, which you can apply very easily. Just when you realize there's a negative thought that's not helpful, stop it. Maybe you combine it with an image like a horn. making some sound, or you push a button, stop, and a flashlight pops up, whatever. So I consciously stopped the negative thinking. And then something very important. I knew, or I developed a positive self-talk, because if you just stop it, your brain doesn't know what to do then. And it's very probable that it gets back to the negative self-talk, which was there first. So tries to avoid the vacuum in your mind. But if you really know what you should think instead, your brain can switch. And I said to myself, okay, this session now, or this race, or this stage during the race, for me will be a learning session. I will learn now how to do this or that, this or that. I handle my emotion, and I switch to self-talk like, okay, this is my learning session now. This is my learning session. I will, after the race, this will be a learning session I will talk about in lectures, maybe I write about in a book. And so I completely switched focus from, it's all bullshit. Why am I running in the snow in winter? I don't like snow. I don't like winter. I don't like low temperatures. I like the sun. I like running in the desert. The equipment doesn't work. Switch to, okay, but what's your learning? What can you learn now? And what do you want to experience now? What do you want to feel now? And I started to relax immediately. And maybe you saw on my face, first like this, but when I switched the self-talk and the thinking, I started laughing again and relaxed. And I started enjoying the landscape again and really focused on, okay, I now learn. During these sections, we had to walk a lot instead of running. And I'm a very poor walker. And my key learning session was to learn to run during an to walk during an ultramarathon. So I really focused on this, and I got relaxed and finished the race walking a lot of time instead of running.
How do you shut off other people's negativity? You know, like, for example, I do a coach a Galloway Method on Long Island, and one of the runners was telling me that someone was screaming at her that she was taking a walk break, you know, that she could do this, that she can not take a walk break. So how do you, or somebody says, oh, you know, you're not as good as somebody else. How do you shut that out of your mind? Not just yourself saying that to yourself, but other people saying that to yourself.
Yeah, I think one of the key points is focusing on your own goals and having this really clear. And people can tell me whatever if I'm very conscious about my goals, or also about what I'm capable to do. Then, yeah, if people start talking, I'm open for maybe feedback, advice. But whenever I realize that's not very constructive for me or helpful, then I'm just closing the doors. I'm focusing on my thing, and it's not my thing. I have my goals. There's my time. I know how to spend my time, and I'm really closing doors and setting up a kind of wall, focus wall, so I don't hear it anymore, and it's not getting into my mind. And you can really train this. And I did a couple of these training sessions, not just in running or sports, but also in business, when people tell you, do this, do that, and whatever, and you can't focus anymore. And we really learned or trained to leave everything aside and to protect, like having a wall or a jacket around you, kind of magic jacket which protects you, jacket that sounds stupid, but it's imagery, letting everything inside or getting in touch with you that might be helpful, but everything that is not constructive or helpful keeps away.
That's awesome.
It's like I don't know, Gore-Tex jacket or whatever.
So we have two questions. One from Sandy. She says, do you have mantras that you use frequently, or do you draw from a past positive experience?
Definitely.
That's the
Both.
first one. And the
Yeah.
second question is from Irem, who says, do you practice meditation, which sometimes also uses guided imagery to help you during the races? So
Yeah.
they're similar questions.
Yeah. All of this very important for me and very powerful tools, also proven by science. I'm working a lot with mantras. They might change from race to race or challenge to challenge, but I realize that using very specific mantras help me getting into a trance-like state or a flow-like state. So extremely powerful just by talking to yourself, moving yourself into a flow state where everything works on autopilot and you're completely focused on the activity. So yeah, definitely. And I just can advise to do so. Find kind of keywords is very helpful. I'm always also connecting past experiences to actual challenges. And in my book, I call it resource reload. And it's a very powerful technique because if you remember past experiences, past moments of success, this helps improve your self-confidence in a certain moment. But on the same time, which is very interesting, you get access to parts of your brain where it's not just about positive emotions and maybe images about past experience, but also on tacit knowledge, which means knowledge about how you mastered challenges in the past. So it's really know-how. It's subconscious know-how. So very powerful to always check, hey, which or what past experience might be helpful for me in the present. And even during my races, during prep time, I define for me what are the key challenges. And for example, my very first race in the desert, the key challenge for me was just to endure, to resist. And I was checking my own life, my past, what moments of endurance or resistance do you find? And there was a couple of things. And during the race, I always, in hard times, imagine, hey, Michele, remember a couple of years ago what you did, and remember what you mastered. And this was very helpful and got me through difficult situations. Meditation. Yeah, meditation and maybe hypnosis or deep relaxation. I think there is a lot of intersection. Is that right? Very helpful, powerful. Working with images or imagery has been shown by science as well. But this is a very personal and individual thing. As I mentioned before, the kind of the jacket. I've worked with an athlete who was really struggling, and she was preparing for an ultra marathon 250K race. And during that time when she contacted me, she wasn't able to run more than 2K. After 2K, all the muscles were hurting. She had problems with her back, and she wasn't able to move at all. She was consulting physiotherapists, physicians, and they didn't have any solution. And she asked me, and we worked in two sessions, defining goals, protecting herself from expectations from others, and using mantras, images, and whatever. And after that, she was able to run again, no pain anymore. So you see how powerful the connection of mind and body can be.
It's amazing. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, well, I appreciate you coming on. And your book is called Mental Toughness for Runners, and it's now available in the US. So I'm sure it's on Amazon, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any way that if anybody wants to get in touch with you, do you want to provide your contact information?
Yeah, sure. You can get in touch with me on my via my website, michelufer.com. I'm on social media channels like Facebook, Instagram. Very happy to stay in touch and exchange ideas always. And if you get the book, I'm very looking forward to feedback and success stories.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate your time, and thank you all for joining in. Everybody's saying thank you, and you have a great week.
Thank you, Hillary. Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure.